What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor, FightfulMMA.com. Go over there and get all of your MMA news. Join our live coverage. UFC Phoenix tomorrow will have hundreds, if not thousands, of comments. We have a great community over there for that. If you're watching live on this YouTube channel, Fightful MMA Boxing on YouTube, leave us a thumbs up and subscribe. Right now, James Lynch has interviews up with Devontae Smith, who I think is going to be a major star. Contender Series winner Grant Dawson, Alex Morono, Curtis Millender, another name to look for, Ricky Simone, who won at UFC 234, Marion Renault, Cody Stamen, Hannah Seifers, Jillian Robertson, just a ton of Jeremy Stevens, like just a ton of names for fights that are coming up from this weekend. Calvillo, Courtney Casey, Luke Sanders, lots of people, people who were on this show like Steve Mowry, or this weekend show like Steve Mowry. Lots of nice stuff. We also have clips from our podcast up at on that channel as well. So show us some love, guys. But FightfulMMA.com, go over there, check it out. Follow James Lynch on Twitter, at Lynch on Sports. We are here every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern with Showdown Joe and James Lynch for the Fightful MMA podcast. But I'm going to give you a quick recap of what mattered at Fightful at Bellator 215 and 216. And let me tell you, it wasn't a whole lot. I joked on the Fightful MMA podcast last Tuesday about how Matt Mitrione had the balls to call his fight with Sergey Kharitonov a super fight. And I'm like, bro, you can't do that. I get it. You had a nice little streak before you ran into Bader, and that's cool. But he has never been in super fight territory. Has never competed for a title, much less won a title. Kharitonov, man, I think Kharitonov is one of the greats, to be honest with you. And the fact that he never competed in the UFC is kind of wild. And technically, Kharitonov is unbeaten in his last 7 fights. 2 of those are no contests. But, I mean, this is a guy who's never lost 2 fights in a row. He is a legit guy. He has, I think, in his last 13 fights, 1 loss. But this was a fantastic indication of why you do not run back-to-back nights. Especially considering they ran the same town. You could have put Logan Storley and Dudu Dantes and Austin Vandeford on this other show. Did you need Valerie Loretta and Colby Fletcher on this main show? No, you didn't. Honestly, you didn't really need the Amasov Silva fight. This show, this Bellator 216 show, was so underwhelming. And to be quite honest with you, the main card of 215 was as well. The Logan Storley did exactly what he was supposed to do. Dudu Dantes did exactly what he was supposed to do. They beat people that they were much better than. On the prelims, you had Amanda Bell winning. That's somebody who can tout a couple of horsewomen victories. You had Steve Mowry winning. I know that they like him. On the 216 prelims, Tyrell Fortune won. That's good. I would maybe do him and Mowry. That's cool. That makes sense. But when you talk about impressive performances that get people excited to watch what's next, neither of these shows really had it. Maybe in some degree for Logan Storley, maybe. And Dudu Dantes winning, that's good. That's nice. A person who was your former Bellator bantamweight champion, instead of losing out to Caldwell, Michael McDonald, and Toby Misich, he gets a win back. Didn't put him away. That would have said a lot. That would have said a lot more to me. If Dantes, who couldn't finish anybody during his entire last run, I mean, that he came into Bellator with that finish over Wilson Hayes, and he had finished like all kinds of people in Shudo. But man, he had trouble finishing people consistently in Bellator. I know he did to Makovsky and Galvo and Leon, but that last run when he beat Higo, Warren, Galvo, and Rickman, he couldn't finish anybody. And now he hasn't finished anybody in 5 years. So what does that mean for him in that division? Well, I don't think it means a whole lot. I don't think it means a whole lot, to be honest with you. This Mitrione Kharitonov fight, what can I say? Well, first off, Kharitonov got kicked right in the balls and the fight's over. 15 seconds in. That's it. That's a wrap. Matt Mitrione got paid 6 figures to show up and punt somebody in the dick. Okay, then. So let's move on to 216. Yaroslav Amosov, man, he's one to watch. Eric Silva started off strong, and then he Eric Silva'd. It happened exactly the way that most Eric Silva fights happen. You get you run your gas tank out and you get beaten. That's what Amosov took advantage of. Amosov is now, I think, 21-0. He's definitely one to watch for. When he beat Gerald Harris, that was one to watch out for. So that was impressive. Not exciting outside of the first round, but impressive. Czech Congo beat Minikov. I thought Minikov had that one, and this was not a lot better than their first fight. But Czech Congo quietly has won 8 fights in a row. Whether or not I think he's exciting or not isn't the question. He deserves his title fight. He has literally earned his way back. He got that title fight by winning the Bellator tournament, which was a 2-round affair. He beat Mark Godbeer and Peter Graham and lost to Minikov like 5 years ago. So this is him avenging that. And since then, he has 1 loss, a split to King Mo, which probably shouldn't have been a split at all. It was nowhere near a split. But Czech Congo has earned it. And I'm kind of glad to some degree that Minikov didn't win this fight because, I mean, the entire reason we had this tournament and years of inactivity atop the Bellator heavyweight division is because of issues surrounding Vitaly Minikov and Bellator. So for him to come right back and get a title shot, I was like, man, is he qualified? You're damn right he's qualified. But that's what started this mess to begin with, and we're going to throw ourselves back into it. Well, that doesn't seem too smart. Didn't seem too smart for Bellator to book Mirko CroCop versus Roy Nelson again, and boy, did that fight show. CroCop slapped Nelson with a couple of pants shitter kicks. This was bad. This was just not good. Man. An underwhelming fight that nobody asked for, and I don't know why anybody pays to watch Roy Nelson fight these days. We're talking about a guy who's lost 3 in a row, lost 4 or 5. He's 1-3 in Bellator. He hasn't pieced together 2 wins in a row since 2012, 2013. He's just not good, man. He's not good, and he doesn't finish anybody anymore. I think he's finished in the past 4.5 years, maybe Bigfoot Silva, that's it. And we're talking Bigfoot Silva, who was fresh off a TRT, man. If anybody needs it. Yeah. This was a rough couple of nights for Bellator. And here I am 8 minutes into this show, and I'm already primarily through this stuff. MVP Paul Daley. Paul Daley is the man who once got wrestled to a degree where he was heckling Bellator during the show. He was heckling Bellator as Douglas Lima was laying on top of him. I think maybe it was John Fitch. And he threw, I think, 0 punches in the first round of this fight. Miserable. Somebody says prelims were great tonight, 6-7 finishes. Usually they are on Bellator. Usually they're really inexperienced mismatches. And they are pretty good to that degree. This fight sucked as well. MVP didn't do a whole lot. He doesn't have great takedown defense. He'll cross his feet up a lot instead of spreading his legs out up against the cage. And with his body composition, that is a recipe for disaster. I don't think that was a very, very good idea. Now, I want to talk after this fight about why it happened where it did, because that's confusing enough. Paul Daley gave this fight away. He wrestled, by the way, keep in mind, the same guy that harassed Bellator about wrestling. And we have a lot of people saying, this showed that MVP is overrated. MVP won the goddamn fight, guys. He won the fight. For better or for worse, doesn't really matter. You can say he's overrated all you want, but he won the fight. He made an effort to put forth some action. But what confused me was when he broke free, cracked Daley with an elbow, or I think it was a knee, he then initiated a cage clinch. Now, he did land that takedown and threw some punches or some strikes down on Daley. But man, this wasn't good. In the third round, Daley went right back to the takedown, but MVP was able to take the back, was nowhere near finishing Daley on a rear naked choke. It was not in, nowhere close. Ended up landing some nice elbows. Those are not 12-6 elbows. Not 12-6 elbows. Quit saying that, please. And MVP stole the fight in the fifth round by taking that back control. So I did think that MVP earned that fight. He did come back and win it. I'm so much happier that he's going to be facing Douglas Lima than Paul Daley at this stage. Daley showed an incredible amount of respect to Paul Daley, or not Paul Daley, Douglas Lima. That was very surprising to me because he doesn't really show respect to a lot of people. But Paul Daley, or MVP rather, is a good indication of how Bellator can bring somebody up slowly. But man, they got to develop the skill set. Could you imagine MVP fighting John Fitch? Well, if he doesn't crack him, he's losing that fight. Bottom line. Now let's talk about this weird decision to put this fight in Uncasville, Connecticut. This should have been the biggest fight, at least from a hype standpoint, in UK MMA history. And they have the balls. Scott Coker has the balls to say, well, we didn't do it in the UK because it was too hard to find a venue. It was too hard for us to find a place, and he put it off on distributors, and he put it off on venues and all this stuff. No, my man. No. You got to fight in Dublin, Ireland next week. That's going to be on Paramount and DAZN. James Gallagher's headlining that show. Why? How about last week? You had a show in Newcastle. I think it was an 11,000 seat arena. No, you didn't want to do that? You couldn't have ran it there? What? I don't care. They could have made that work. There's no reason they couldn't have made that work. So instead, Uncasville, Connecticut got this. You mean to tell me that this fight with Aaron Chalmers and Patricky Pitbull underneath it would have done great in the UK? It would have done fine. It would have done just fine. Probably would have made more money off of it over there than they did here. I don't have the attendance figures yet. You did not need this fight in Uncasville, Connecticut. You did not need 2 shows back to back. Man, that was such a weird... Bellator makes some really weird decisions, man. Really weird decisions. Bellator 221 is May 11th, Pitbull versus Chandler for the lightweight title. Jake Hager back in action. That is going head-to-head with UFC 237 in Curitiba. Joseph Boza says, was it the issue that Bellator 216 was on DAZN and running overseas is hard to air it in the U.S. live? They can figure out anything with DAZN, man. They can figure it out. It is not that hard to run anything live on DAZN. Streaming service. My God. It was Bellator. That's it. That's literally it. That was the whole weekend. We do have UFC Phoenix tomorrow night. I'll keep you all up to date on my Twitter at Sean Ross Sapp on when that post show will be, because obviously WWE Elimination Chamber is tomorrow night, featuring former Bellator star Bobby Lashley. Leave us a thumbs up and subscribe, guys. Got lots of interviews up. People asking who won. Watch the show. We're out.